Hey guys, my name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing another if you like this book, then I think you'll like this book recommendation style video. Except this time I'm mixing it up because this time I'm going to do if you didn't like this book, then maybe you'll enjoy this book. Which is another form of this kind of video that I've been seeing going around, and I think that that's a really interesting way to recommend books because sometimes I'll be going into a book totally hyped about one particular thing in the book, and then when it doesn't kind of like live up to my expectation, I'm still kind of craving that thing that I wanted in that book. So I'm here to recommend you some books that do those things but in a better way. So if you're looking for a book similar to that but you didn't enjoy that book, then I think you might enjoy this one, maybe. But before we do jump into the video, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people. It's curated specifically for learning, meaning that there are no ads, and they're always launching new premium classes so you can stay focused and follow wherever your creativity takes you. Skillshare has classes for everyone that can inspire you to learn something new. I just started taking one of their classes that is a staff pick right now, and it's called iPhone Photography, How to Take Pro Photos on Your iPhone, and it's taught by Dale McManus, who is a YouTuber, I'm pretty sure. And this class has been really interesting so far because I'm definitely interested in learning how to take better iPhone photography because I have a Bookstagram account, and so I really love posting like my book pictures on Bookstagram. I don't know, I've just become super interested in photography and how to be better at it and how to properly edit your photos for like the best lighting. And in this class he teaches you so many different things, like not only like basic photography things but things like that, like how to edit your photos better in this app called Lightroom that's free on the App Store. So he goes over a lot of really cool different techniques, and I've already been learning so many cool different tricks that I didn't know about. But if that class doesn't sound interesting to you, they have so many other creative classes. They have many other photography classes, but they also have writing classes, graphic design, illustration, marketing, web development. Like there's literally so many different things. And it's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. So the first 1,000 of my subscribers that click the link in the description will get a 2-month free trial premium membership so that you can also explore your creativity. And I've had a wonderful time this year taking a whole bunch of new classes on Skillshare. Like they always have really interesting things. I'm always in the browse section and I can just see so many different cool classes, and I get kind of overwhelmed because I'm like, what should I take first? Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video and for supporting my channel and the booktube community. It means a lot to me. Alright, so without further ado, let's just jump into the book recommendations. So the very first one is going to be if you didn't like The Time Traveler's Wife, then I think you might like The Dream Daughter by Diane Chamberlin. And I say this because I personally didn't really enjoy The Time Traveler's Wife, but I really enjoyed the idea of it, I guess. I liked the time travel idea of it, and I thought it was like a really cool concept, but it just like bored the hell out of me and I didn't care about any of the characters basically. But in this book, The Dream Daughter, we are getting that same like time travel element to it, except in this book it's not in a romantic sense, it's in a mother and daughter relationship sense, which is even better for me in my opinion. If you were disappointed by The Time Traveler's Wife and you just thought the time travel part of it wasn't as cool as you wanted it to be, then I would definitely recommend The Dream Daughter, because The Dream Daughter is about this woman who she finds out that her baby that she's carrying isn't gonna survive because they don't have the technology to save it in the year 1970 when she's living. But then she gets the chance to time travel to the year 2001 where they do have the technology to save her baby, and so she time travels to the future to save her daughter, and then the story just really takes off from there, and it's a wild, crazy ride. And this book just gave me everything that I wanted from The Time Traveler's Wife. The next one is going to be if you didn't enjoy City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert, then I think you should check out The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, because this was the case for me. I read City of Girls after hearing that it was so similar to Evelyn Hugo and everything, and while I understand the comparison, I feel like if you read The City of Girls and you were disappointed because it was so boring and slow and it just wasn't what you wanted it to be, then I would definitely recommend Evelyn Hugo, because I feel like this is one of those historical fictions that actually does live up to the hype, because they both have similar settings. You know, they're both historical fiction. They mostly take place in New York or Los Angeles or in these big cities. In the book City of Girls, we're following more on like the Broadway side of fame and things, but then in Evelyn Hugo, we're following more in like old Hollywood vibes. But I would definitely say I see them compared all the time, and I definitely understand the comparison, but I think if you didn't like City of Girls, you'll probably like Evelyn Hugo, because I do think this is the better of the two. The next one is going to be, if you didn't like Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer, I think you might want to check out Wilder Girls by Rory Power, because I feel like these books do have very similar plots, and while I wasn't personally a huge fan of either of them, I can definitely see that if you're looking for some kind of weird sci-fi body horror thing happening in this one, but maybe this book was just too confusing for you, because gosh, this book is so confusing to me. Like, I had no idea what was going on like 90% of the time. Then I think you might enjoy the vibe of Wilder Girls better, because Wilder Girls is like a young adult novel that felt very similar to Annihilation, because in Wilder Girls it's all girls that you're following, kind of in the same way as Annihilation, where we're following these 4 females. In this book, we're following all girls in Wilder Girls, and there's some strange like body horror things happening in Wilder Girls too, but it's a little bit easier to understand, and the writing is like sometimes confusing but mostly poetic in Wilder Girls, I think. If you didn't enjoy one, maybe check out the other, but I think if you didn't enjoy Annihilation because you were too confused, I think Wilder Girls might be a better book for you, maybe. Alright, the next one is gonna be, if you didn't like Dr. Sleep by Stephen King, then I think you might like The Other People by C.J. Tudor. I just got such similar vibes from these books, and I feel like Dr. Sleep is one of those books that had so much potential. You know, it's like a really cool premise, and then it just kind of like drops the ball on everything, and it's so slow and so boring. Like, I was bored out of my mind reading this book, and it's way too long. Then I think you might enjoy The Other People, because The Other People has like this similar vibe to it. I feel like letting you know what these books have in common might spoil some things for you, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but both of these books kind of involve these young kids that have something going on, and I just think if you were interested in Dr. Sleep for that reason, but you were disappointed in it for that reason, then I think The Other People might be worth checking out. The next one is going to be, if you did not enjoy the book Dear Wife, then I think you would enjoy Gone Girl, because honestly, I feel like Dear Wife is just trying to rip off Gone Girl anyways, because they both basically have very, very, very similar premises, but I feel like Gone Girl is done so much better, and Gone Girl is the OG anyways, so like, don't even waste your time reading books like Dear Wife, because they're just trying to be rip-offs of Gone Girl. And Gone Girl is just one of the best thrillers of all time in my opinion. Like, this is one of the books that started it all. It started that thriller craze energy from me, and it's just unlike anything else I've ever read before I read Gone Girl. So Gone Girl is definitely the OG, and if you haven't read this one, then I definitely recommend reading this one before you read something like Dear Wife that's just essentially a ripoff of this book. Alright, the next one is going to be, if you didn't like The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn, then I would recommend checking out What Lies Between Us by John Mars, because both of these books have characters who are staying in one place for the duration of the book mostly, and in The Woman in the Window, we're following this girl who is, what is the word, is it agoraphobic? Something like that. Like, she lives by herself in her house and she refuses to leave her house, like she can't leave, so she spends the entire duration of this book mostly in her house. And I think that if you like that aspect, like that isolated setting of the book, then I think you would like that in What Lies Between Us, because in this book we're following these two women, Maggie and Nina. All we know is that Nina is keeping Maggie upstairs for reasons that we don't know, and she's there kind of against her will being held upstairs, and that's all we know. So I feel like if you enjoyed the aspect of like a woman being by herself in her house for most of the duration of the book, then I think you would enjoy What Lies Between Us more, because I did not enjoy The Woman in the Window. I thought it was way too boring and slow. So this one is definitely action-packed. It is so intense, and every chapter ends on a cliffhanger and your mind will be blown. Alright, the next one is going to be, if you did not like Middle Game by Shauna Maguire, then I would highly recommend Vicious by Victoria Schwab. I personally enjoyed both of these books, like, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed both, but if you didn't like Middle Game because it got too confusing, which I definitely understand, because that was one of my biggest critiques of this book is that it was really cool, but it also didn't make any sense. I think that that's the biggest flaw with this book, at least for me, is that it didn't make a whole lot of sense. But if you like the idea of reading about these extraordinary people with these really cool abilities, then oh my gosh, you need to read Vicious by Victoria Schwab, because holy shit. This one is definitely a young adult book and this one is definitely an adult book, but they have similar themes and similar vibes. A lot of people have described Middle Game as the young adult version of Vicious, but I don't know, because in Middle Game we're following these two siblings, Roger and Dodger, who were born with the purpose, like they were made in a lab and they were born with the intent of like taking over the world one day, like they're gonna be all powerful beings. In Vicious, we're following these two college students, Victor and Eli, who discover they have the ability to become extraordinary if they come close enough to death. So it's about these two college students literally almost killing themselves for science and figuring out that they have extraordinary abilities as the result of it, and it's freaking crazy. And I do feel like Vicious is the better book out of these two, just in my opinion, because Vicious is one of my favorite books of all time. Like, Vicious is exceptional. So I feel like if you were looking for something like that in Middle Game but you didn't quite get that from this book, definitely check out Vicious. Oh my gosh, Vicious is so good. This book is so underrated, it makes me mad, honestly. So the next one is gonna be, if you did not enjoy the book Never Have I Ever, the thriller, then I think you might want to check out The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendricks. And this one is a horror book. I think if you went into Never Have I Ever and you enjoyed the aspect of like, ooh, a book club where like things start to go crazy, then you definitely need to check out this book if you were disappointed in Never Have I Ever, which I personally definitely was, because Never Have I Ever gives you the description of like, oh, it's just a book club of all these moms, and then things start to get a little crazy when they start to play this game, Never Have I Ever, and then it just kind of turns into this boring ass story about this other girl blackmailing one of the moms in the book club, and it's just, honestly, it's so freaking boring. Just skip it. But if you liked the idea of a book club where these crazy shenanigans start happening, then I would recommend The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, because this one is way more interesting and way more fun. And in this book, we're following a group of moms who are in this book club in the 90s when this guy who's a vampire just shows up at their book club, and he's like, I'm gonna be a part of this book club now, and they're like, what the heck? And this book is just like 10 times more interesting than Never Have I Ever. All right, my next one is gonna be, if you did not enjoy The Selection by Kiera Cass, the young adult books, I think you might enjoy One to Watch. I feel like this book kind of interprets The Selection. It kind of has like the same thing going, but it's an adult book and it's so much better. I feel like The Selection is attempting to be a more regal version of The Bachelorette, you know, because it's like all these girls are coming to fight for the prince's affection, like the prince is gonna choose the one, you know. It's very like The Bachelor in my opinion, and I personally found The Selection to be so cringy and irritating, and I just hated all of the characters. But if you're looking for that kind of like bachelor bachelorette vibes in a book and you didn't get it from The Selection, then I would definitely recommend One to Watch, because this one also definitely takes inspiration from The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. But this book follows this girl who's a plus size Instagram fashion blogger, and she becomes the next like bachelorette essentially on this show called The Main Squeeze, but it's basically The Bachelorette, and she's gonna be the one on the show with all the men like pining for her. And it's just the cutest, softest thing ever, and I would recommend this book 1,000 times more than The Selection. And this book was just way more fun. It was so cute, and it just made my heart so happy. All right, and then the last one that I have for you is, if you weren't a huge fan of the book Sadie, I would definitely recommend checking out The Night Swim by Megan Golden. I will say a huge warning though, that Sadie is a young adult book, so I know that this one is definitely catered towards more young adult readers, and The Night Swim definitely has a lot of very strong adult content in it and trigger warnings for rape and just like a lot of really dark things like that, so just be warned going into it. But I do think these two are very similar because they both involve podcasts in some way in their story, and they both kind of involve like sister relationships in some way. Because in Sadie, we're following this girl who, her sister was murdered, I'm pretty sure, and then she's trying to like track down the guy who murdered her sister because she wants to get revenge for her sister. In The Night Swim, we're following this girl who something happened to her sister back in the day, and she never feels like she found out the truth about what happened to her sister back in the day, but she knows it was something dark and awful that happened to her sister. So she's trying to figure out the truth, and she's also contacting this girl who runs this very successful true crime podcast, and she's like asking to tell her sister's story on her podcast. And I just feel like these books are similar in that way, but I personally wasn't a huge fan of Sadie, just because I found Sadie to be kind of like boring and it just wasn't my thing. So I think if you were looking for that cool like podcast element in a thriller in Sadie, but you were disappointed by Sadie, then I would definitely check out The Night Swim, because I feel like this book delivers so much more, and this book was just so much more entertaining for me personally. But I know a lot of people like Sadie, but even if you did like Sadie, still, I would check out The Night Swim, because The Night Swim was so freaking good. Those are all of the book recommendations that I have for you today. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of these, and let me know what other books like you would think, like if you don't enjoy a certain book, you would like maybe another book for that. And yeah, that is all for this video, so thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I will see you very soon with another video. Bye!